Welcome to the OSBT Standard Operating Procedure 037, Excavating, Trenching, and Shoring. Excavating, trenching, and shoring. The purpose. Excavating and trenching operations shall be performed in a manner that will protect personnel from the dangers associated with trenching and excavating, such as cave-ins, and shall also in a manner that will prevent damage to underground utilities. Responsibilities. Health, safety, security, and environmental. HSSE has the primary responsibility for assisting departments in implementation of this policy through coordinating training and consultation. This includes on-site evaluation to monitor use of safe work practices and procedures, assisting with atmospheric testing and equipment selection as needed, providing or identifying appropriate training for competent persons and staff, reviewing and updating this program at least annually. Managers and supervisors. Supervisors have the primary responsibility for the implementation of the trenching and excavation safety policy in their work area. The supervisor has ultimate responsibility for the safety of the employees and general public affected by the excavation. This includes the evaluation of the work to be performed, determination of the means of protection that will be used, and adherence to the provisions of this policy as appropriate. The supervisor must ensure daily or more often as required that site conditions are safe for employees to work in excavations. The supervisor or a member of the work group must be a competent person as defined by OSHA. Employees and partners. Employees and partners are responsible for the following: asking questions of their supervisors when concerned about an unknown or hazardous situation or substance, reporting all unsafe conditions, practices, or equipment either to their supervisor or to the HSSE Department, keeping informed about conditions that may impact their health and safety, and participating in training programs. Employees have the primary responsibility for working in accordance with the provisions of this policy. No employees should enter an excavation meeting the scope of this policy until authorized by the competent person. General requirements. Each time excavation in excess of 5 feet is performed, there must be a competent person on site to evaluate each trench or excavation and determine the necessary precaution to take. The competent person's name and qualifications must be submitted to the safety manager in advance of any excavation being performed. Competent person. One who is capable to identify existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions that may affect employees and the general public, and has authority to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. The competent person must be trained in and knowledgeable of excavation and trenching standards and other programs that may apply, such as hazard communication, confined space, and respiratory protection. The competent person also must be able of recognizing hazardous conditions and must have authority to stop work and ensure that hazards are corrected. Performs and documents the daily excavation inspection and knows when inspections should be performed. Must assure that the location of underground installations or utilities have been properly located. Must identify and ensure the use of adequate protective systems, work methods, and personal protective equipment or PPE on excavation sites. Shoring. A structure such as a metal hydraulic, mechanical, or timber shoring system that supports the sides of an excavation and which is designed to prevent cave-ins. Sloping. A method of protecting employees from cave-ins by excavating to form sides of an excavation that is inclined away from the excavation so as to prevent cave-ins. The angle of incline varies with differences in such factors as soil type, environmental exposure conditions, and application of surcharge loads. Soil type A. This is the most stable soil. It includes clay, silt, and hardpan, and it resists penetration. No soil is type A if it is fissured, is subject to vibration of any type, has previously been disturbed, or has seeping water. Soil type B has medium stability. It includes silt, sandy loam, medium clay, unstable dry rock, and previously disturbed soils unless otherwise classified as type C. Soil type C is the least stable of the soil types. It includes gravel, loamy sand, soft clay, submerged soil, dense, heavy, unstable rock, and soil from which any water is seeping. Protection of the public. Excavations must be isolated from public access by a substantial physical barrier. Barricades, lighting, and posting shall be installed as appropriate prior to the start of the excavation operations. All temporary excavations of this type shall be backfilled as soon as possible. Guardrails, fences, or barricades shall be installed around excavations adjacent to walkways, roads, paths, or other traffic areas. Use of barricade tape alone is not considered a sufficient method of isolation when the excavation is unattended. Warning lights or other illuminations shall be used as necessary for the safety of the public at night. Wells, holes, pits, and similar excavations should effectively be barricaded or covered and posted. Walkways or bridges used by the general public to cross excavations must be equipped with standard guardrails. Benching. In Type B soil, the vertical height of the benches must not exceed 4 feet. Benches in increments of 2 feet or less is preferred. The angle developed by the edge of the benches must not exceed the maximum allowable slope for that soil type. Type B soil would be 45 degrees. Shielding. Trench boxes or trench shields are intended to protect workers from cave-ins and similar incidents. The trench shield is lowered into the excavation and workers may then enter the protected area within the shield. Only trench shields designed or certified by a registered professional engineer may be used. The use is limited to those trenches for which the shield is certified. Shields may be placed 2 feet above the bottom of an excavation, provided they are calculated to support the full depth of the excavation and there is no caving under or behind the shield. Workers must enter and leave the shielded area in a protected manner, such as by a ladder or ramp. Workers may not remain in the shielded area while it is being moved. Shoring. All shoring shall be installed from the top down and removed from the bottom up. Hydraulic shorings shall be checked at least once per shift for leaking hoses and/or cylinders, broken connections, cracked nipples, bent bases, and any other damaged or defective parts. The top cylinder of hydraulic shoring shall be no more than 18 inches below the top of the excavation. 3 vertical shores, evenly spaced, must be used to form a system. Wales are installed no more than 2 feet from the top, no more than 4 feet from the bottom, and no more than 4 feet apart vertically. Inspections. Frequent inspection of the excavation and surrounding area by the competent person is critical to ensure the safety of the workers involved in work within the trench. The competent person must conduct inspections of the entire excavation site, daily and before the start of each shift, as dictated by the work being done in the trench, after every rainstorm, when fissures, tension cracks, sloughing, undercutting, water seepage, bulging at the bottom, or other similar conditions occur, when there is a change in the size, location, or placement of the spoil pile, and when there is any indication of change or movement in adjacent structures. Temporary spoil shall be placed no closer than 2 feet from the surface edge of the excavation. The distance is measured from the nearest base of the spoil to the cut. The distance should not be measured from the crown of the spoil deposit. This distance requirement ensures that loose rock or soil from the temporary spoil will not fall on employees in the trench. Surface crossing of trenches. Surface crossing of trenches should not be made unless absolutely necessary. However, if necessary, they are only permitted under the following conditions. Vehicle crossings must be designed by and installed under the supervision of a registered professional engineer. Walkways or bridges must have a minimum clear width of 20 inches, be fitted with standard rails, and extend a minimum of 24 inches past the surface edge of the trench. Ingress and egress. Trenches 4 feet or more in depth shall be provided with ladders or other fixed means of egress. Spacing must be such that a worker will not have to travel more than 25 feet to the nearest means of egress. Ladders must be secured and extend a minimum of 36 inches above the landing. Metal ladders should be used with caution, particularly when electric utilities are present. Exposure to vehicles. Employees exposed to vehicular traffic shall be provided with and required to wear reflected vests or other suitable garments marked with or made of reflectorized or high visibility materials. Trained flag persons, signs, signals, and barricades shall be used when necessary. Exposure to falling loads. Employees are not allowed in the excavation while heavy equipment is digging. Employees must not work under loads being lifted or moved by heavy equipment used for digging or lifting. Employees are required to stand away from equipment that is being loaded or unloaded to avoid being struck by falling materials or spillage. Hazardous atmospheres and confined spaces. Testing for atmospheric contaminants. If there is any possibility that the trench or excavation could contain a hazardous atmosphere, atmospheric testing must be conducted prior to entry. Testing should be conducted before employees enter the trench and should be done regularly to ensure that the trench remains safe. Employees required to wear respiratory protection must be trained, fit tested, and enrolled in the respiratory protection program. Employees shall not be permitted to work in hazardous and/or toxic atmospheres. These include atmospheres with less than 19.5% oxygen, a combustible gas concentration greater than 20% of the lower flammable limit, concentrations of hazardous substance that exceed those specified in the threshold limit values for airborne contaminants established by the ACGIH. Standing water and water accumulation. Workers must not enter or work in excavations with standing water or in which water is accumulating unless adequate protection is provided. Protective methods for these circumstances must include use of special support or shield systems approved by a registered professional engineer, water removal equipment used and monitored by a competent person, and safety harnesses and lifelines used in conformance with the 29 CFR 1926.104. Emergencies. OSBT personnel are not training to perform trench rescues and should not place themselves at risk in order to attempt the rescue of someone trapped due to a cave-in. In the event of a serious injury or trapped worker requiring specialized rescue, 911 must be called immediately. Police department should be notified after you call 911. Training. Any employee required to dig or enter an excavation shall attend at a minimum trenching and excavation safety awareness training prior to beginning related work. The training is provided by HSSE Department or site-specific and covers the potential hazards encountered when working in and around excavations and the procedures that need to be followed in order to avoid these hazards. This concludes excavating, trenching, and shoring training. Please copy and paste the test link into your browser and begin the quiz.